From the KOIN 6 newsroom, this is breaking news.
Tonight, major developments in the refuge takeover in eastern Oregon. Shots fired as the feds move in, arresting militia leaders. And KOIN 6 giving you an exclusive look of the scene where it all went down.
We have a subject with gunshot wound. Law enforcement is on scene.
One of those militants is dead tonight, as we've confirmed outspoken leader Lavoy Finicum was killed.
All this playing out in a remote area as the group traveled to a meeting that went on as scheduled without the militant leaders. And at 11 o'clock, good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Gianola.
And I'm Jennifer Hoff. Here is what we know tonight. Militia leader Ammon Bundy is under arrest, as well as his brother, Ryan. We also know Ryan was shot in the arm. Police also arrested Brian Cavalier, Shauna Cox, and Ryan Payne with the militant group. Another militant, John Ritzheimer, was taken into custody in Arizona. Then in a separate event in Burns, Joseph O'Shaughnessy and Peter Santilli were also arrested. The Harney District Hospital was on lockdown, but we found out late tonight that officers have since left the building. But Highway 395 between Burns and John Day, a 50-mile stretch, is still blocked tonight. And KOIN 6 News was the only station on the scene as federal agents and other officers shut down that major highway where this confrontation took place.
I want you to look at this exclusive video now from our photojournalist Dale Burkholz. He was on his way to cover that community meeting in John Day between militia leader Ammon Bundy and people who live there. And Dale described to me what happened.
There were at least 3 or 4 federal cars. They looked like federal agents. They were behind the cars, guns drawn. And it looked like, I couldn't tell, but it looked like whatever it was over. It just happened. And so I pulled over and took some video with my cell phone because I knew they'd be nervous if I got out, obviously. The situation was still developing. And shot some video with that. And then as I did that, a car pulled up behind me. He wasn't in any hurry, but then I saw him get out with a military-style rifle, and he came up, knocked on the window, and very abruptly told me to turn around and head south, which I immediately did.
Now, something else very interesting. Dale tells us that area where the confrontation took place has no cell phone service because of a steep canyon. So did federal authorities plan it that way? We don't know.
That's a question we're certainly looking into. We also found out that community meeting that Dale was going to, it went on as scheduled at the John Day Senior Center. And I spoke to a resident who described what happened at that meeting when news of this gunfight broke.
When did you get word that something had happened?
Not too long into the meeting, we were there, and it was crowded. It was a very packed room. Very crowded room, packed in like sardines. And that's, not long after the people were getting ready to start, word came down, and there was kind of an odd feeling in the room. You could feel the tension and stuff because, it's coming across different social media and such. So no one's knowing exactly what's going on other than something's happening. It just kind of got tense, depending on which side of the fence you're on with them, happy, sad, or indifferent. It just depends there. But you could definitely feel something change in the air.
Did a law enforcement official come in and confirm anything?
Negative. We did have a law enforcement, our own sheriff shows up, and apparently came there to either welcome them or whatever. He went to the front of the room where they were at. And not long after he stepped out a side door or something, a friend of mine told me that he was speaking with militia as that was all going down. Information was coming in. He went out and, according to my friend that spoke with him, and that he left.
And Mike says that meeting lasted for 2 hours. It went on as scheduled, and several people there spoke. A militia supporter and several of her children also started singing.
The militia member who was killed tonight in that confrontation with federal agents had become a familiar face during the occupation of the refuge. Lavoy Finicum was a spokesperson for the group. He was known for being soft-spoken but determined. He often wore those fur earmuffs along with his cowboy hat with a revolver on his hip. Here is Finicum speaking with KOIN 6 just a few weeks ago.
If I'm not worried then, why should I start worrying now?
Nothing to lose?
No, all to gain. All to gain. It's not about losing, it's about gaining. It's about putting the federal government back into the confines of the law.
Once again, Finicum dead tonight. He was from Arizona but had traveled to Oregon to take part in the occupation.
From the KOIN 6 newsroom, this is breaking news.
3 people are killed in a shooting at a mall in the Seattle area, and police say the man there on your screen on the left is the shooter, and he is still on the loose tonight. This is all happening at the Cascade Mall in Burlington, Washington, which is about an hour north of Seattle. We know tonight the 3 victims are all women, and at least 2 other people were shot, and one of them has life-threatening injuries. Now, police again are searching for the shooter, and they have police dogs out in this parking lot sniffing out all of the vehicles there. And within the last hour, we found out the shoppers inside the mall actually were able to get on city buses and evacuate, and then were taken to a nearby church to meet their friends and families. This is, of course, a very fluid situation here. A lot is developing, so be sure to stay with KOIN 6 News as everything happens, and we will have the latest details on KOIN.com and on KOIN 6 News this morning, starting at 6 o'clock. Marching for miles now. A Black Lives Matter rally makes its way across Portland, blocking traffic and taking over City Hall. They're marching to draw attention to 2 recent deadly police shootings, and our Jennifer Dowling marched with them.
The protesters marched about 5 miles from the east side all the way here to City Hall, demanding to speak with the mayor. Around 6 o'clock, they got their wish. Before more than 100 protesters took over 3 levels of City Hall, they took to the streets in Northeast Portland and marched through the Lloyd Center Mall. This woman spontaneously joining the crowd.
I was on my way to the Lloyd Center to get some makeup, and then I ran into this, and I was really shocked to see this going on, and I said, well, why not be a part of it? Hands up!
The group made their way to MLK, where there was some initial jostling with police. Then they staged a die-in on the Burnside Bridge.
To represent all the lives that have been lost to police violence.
This is so powerful and so moving.
Protesters then stopped the MAX in its tracks by Pioneer Square.
Please clear the MAX tracks for your safety.
And eventually rushed through the open doors at City Hall. Security kept protesters out of Charlie Hale's office. 2 hours later, he appeared.
1, Black Lives Matter. I believe that.
While the mayor said he respected the right to protest, he did accuse the group of vandalizing the Lovejoy room and the women's bathroom.
It also is important that we remember how we protest. And I'm sorry there was vandalism in this building today, because you own it. I just work here. And I'm sorry they're working moms.
So protest by bringing up some vandalism that could have been done by anybody. That don't got nothing to do with dead bodies in the ground.
I'm sorry.
That ain't got nothing to do with dead bodies in the ground.
And it's sickening. You heard them talking about vandalism, and we're talking about dead children.
He did assure protesters he would look into complaints within the police department.
Anybody that wants to help make the police bureau more humane, I'm interested in getting that help.
So you admit it's
I admit that it's not where it needs to be.
He also agreed to a meeting with the police chief next week.
I'm satisfied with the fact that he came down here in our space to speak to us on our level.
The mayor says he plans to meet with whoever would like to speak with him on Tuesday at around 4 o'clock. In Portland, Jennifer Dowling, KOIN 6 News.
And one of the shootings that they were protesting happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is new video that was released by the wife of the black man who was shot and killed by police in Charlotte. She shot that cell phone video you first saw. And this comes as police and North Carolina officials refuse to release dash and body cam video of the same incident. Tonight is the 4th night of the protests.
Now, the forecast with meteorologist Kristen Van Dyke.
Good evening. A chilly, dreary day today, and we finished it off with a little more rain this evening, but it did not amount to much. Just a few hundredths of an inch for the Portland metro area, and that was the case for most of the valley too. Most of the rain falling at coastal areas where we received over a tenth to even a quarter of an inch of rain there, but all of it subsiding. And the main thing to deal with tonight is the fog that's developing. We're at 55 degrees right now. Winds are calm. We had that rain that came down, and you have that light wind and high humidity, and with temperatures dropping, that is the rest recipe for fog to develop. So skies are trying to clear out outside of that. And of course, the rain is now moved out. Just a few sprinkles remain for the Cascades. But look at the visibility. Hillsborough already down to 1/4 of a mile, 1/2 a mile at Tillamook, 1/2 a mile in Newport. And so we're in the clear right now here in Portland, but that fog is going to be developing. So if you're heading out early tomorrow morning, you're going to want to allow for extra time because that fog could definitely be a bit of a trouble for you as it could reduce that visibility. I have your full forecast of a beautiful weekend ahead coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, see you in a bit, Kristen. Thank you. And speaking of weather, look at what happened in Wisconsin. A boat actually went over this dam. There is heavy rain falling there, and it caused the water to go up about 3 feet. The boat got loose and then was just swept away. It was one of several, actually, that went over that dam. A fire captain says the boats will most likely stay then at the bottom of the river. By the way, there is a state of emergency in several counties around there due to all of that bad weather. Police are looking for whoever killed a Southeast Portland man in his home. It happened on the 1700 block of Southeast 162nd Avenue. That's where police found the body of a 45-year-old man shortly after responding to a report of a shooting around 11 o'clock this morning. Witnesses report seeing a man and a woman running from that scene too about that same time. Police tell us that at some point, the people at that house where this happened were growing marijuana.
Live from the KOIN Center in downtown Portland, this is KOIN 6 News. Watching out for you.
Now at 11, the cleanup at Northwest 23rd continues as crews sift through massive amounts of debris. This after 2 gas explosions level a Portland bagel shop. Thanks everybody for joining us for KOIN 6 News at 11 o'clock. I'm Jennifer Hoff. Jeff Gianola is off tonight. And in those explosions, we know 8 people were hurt, including 3 firefighters, 2 police officers, and 3 civilians. Only 1 firefighter is still in the hospital tonight. And investigators are digging through all of that rubble there on the ground, and the fire chief says it will be a very tedious process. They will have to analyze every piece of debris to make sure they don't miss anything while still trying to find the cause of these explosions. And tonight there are so many questions. How did this happen? Who might be to blame? And just what went wrong? Those are details we'll hopefully learn as this investigation plays out. But our Cole Miller is digging deeper into that company that nicked the line tonight, and he's live for us. So Cole, what exactly have you learned tonight?
Well, Jennifer, good evening. No one is pointing fingers so far, at least right now, as for who is to blame. And tonight we're learning more about that subcontractor that hit that line. It turns out they've had a few run-ins with OSHA.
And it's really too early for me to speculate who would be held accountable in this situation.
It's a mess that someone is going to have to eventually own up to. The investigation into that devastating explosion, however, could take a long time.
It's hard to tell. It can take weeks to months.
Until then, we've learned that Bremick Construction hired Loy Clark Pipeline to do some electrical work. That's when that gas line was hit, ultimately causing that blast. Whenever there's a dig like this, someone has to come out and mark both the gas main and service lines. We've learned that was performed on September 13th. Northwest Natural hiring a third-party subcontractor to do that job, though they haven't yet released the name of that company. Begging the question, were things marked correctly, or did that crew with Loy Clark simply not pay close enough attention? Melissa Moore with Northwest Natural speaking with our Tim Becker.
All of the details about the location are part of the investigation, and we eagerly await the results as well.
And tonight, new details on Loy Clark. These documents revealing previous OSHA violations. Over the past 2.5 years, at least 5, ranging anywhere from respirators that weren't fitting workers correctly, not having the appropriate warnings for drivers that a flagger was in the road, to the most serious, a potential cave-in hazard at an open trench where OSHA inspectors saw at least 1 worker. Those violations have all been either settled or withdrawn. And tonight, both Bremick and Loy Clark tell KOIN 6 they are working with investigators here. As for what caused that blast, that is still under investigation. Live tonight in Northwest Portland, Cole Miller, KOIN 6 News.
Cole, thank you for that update. And of course, we'll continue to follow that angle. Remember, we told you 8 people were hurt in this blast. The firefighter who you see here, who was most hurt, spoke to us from his hospital bed tonight.
I think I must have blacked out for a little bit, because next thing I knew, I was on the ground. After I felt the heat wave push me back, and then I was on the ground and just in pain.
Lieutenant Peter St. John there is in fair condition, but boy, is he in good spirits, and he was through most of our interview. He had responded to reports of a natural gas leak, and they were aware of that leak's level. So he put on his firefighter's mask before the explosion that he said threw him backwards some 20 feet.
I feel like I'm not a hero. I just did what everyone else would have done during that time. It was our job were to go in and protect the citizens, and that's what we're doing, make sure everyone's safe.
Lieutenant St. John had surgery to fix a broken leg and hopes to be out of the hospital by next week. And we are learning who the other injured firefighters are. They are Brett Kimple and Eric Kent. The firefighters had been there activating fire alarms in some of the businesses to alert the people inside. No doubt saving those lives. We are working to learn just how long these men have been with the Bureau, and of course, a lot of people calling them heroes tonight. And as the massive cleanup continues, businesses in the area continue to support one another in any way that they can. Our Andrew Dimbert spoke with several of those local businesses to find out, Andrew, what exactly is next for them?
Yeah, well, Jennifer, up and down 23rd Street, you can see that some lights are on and a lot of businesses are open. But as you get closer to that blast zone, you can see a lot of establishments, they're still closed tonight, but they're all coming together in wake of this destruction to rebuild and reopen.
Businesses are open. Please encourage you to, it's one way you can give back, is stop by and know that 23rd Street and many of these locations are open and ready for business.
Many businesses remain closed along 23rd Street. The ones that are open struggle for the foot traffic that normally characterizes this district.
We rely on people coming in and experiencing this area. It's such a lovely little nook of Portland, and so to have something so tragic and foot traffic disrupted, and it's just kind of a shock to all of us.
It's a close community of coffee shop owners, entrepreneurs, and restaurateurs. Hip Pound is helping by hosting a fundraiser to help get them all back on their feet.
I'm hoping to help, and I know that we try and partner with everyone on the street, so hopefully we'll get to do more for the neighborhood.
Those same business owners aren't only extending their gratitude towards each other.
They opened their doors yesterday for bathrooms and food and coffee and just making sure that we were okay.
The entire community making sure every shop gets what they need.
Both from the fire department or other bureaus that might be helping them and making sure they can reopen their businesses and getting things open for the day.
Brianne Meese is one of those business owners. Now, she won't reopen until tomorrow, but today was the first day she was allowed back into her shop to survey the damage. She was one of the few lucky ones sustaining little to no damage.
It was crazy. We love this place, and that's what makes me think of the other small businesses.
And for the ones right in the blast zone, it could be months before things get back to normal.
Boy, one way to help that is to just go on down to that area, grab a cup of coffee, maybe a slice of pizza. Really, anything will help. It is a very popular place in Portland and caught a lot of those folks off guard. Now, if you are interested in helping, we also found out about a few ways to do that. But before we get to that, we want to show you an interview that we got with the owner of the Portland Bagel Works restaurant. We talked to him soon after this explosion happened, but we also got to sit down with him again today. And he actually wasn't at the restaurant when the explosions happened. He said he learned that there was a problem when his store manager called to tell him about the construction workers who were there warning of a gas leak. And then from there is when he called crews to figure out how to handle this situation.
It's crazy that it happened to me. It's news that's gone all across the country that Portland Bagel Works has disappeared from the face of the earth.